Marksman Capital presents.
I always wondered why Apple is the first trillion-dollar company, and at one point it was USD 3 trillion. Now it is the biggest market cap in the world, valued at 2.4 trillion latest update. So me and my family have at least 8 Apple devices for many years, and it is still around without much quality problems. Even my car interfaces with my iPhone and both music and live maps. So as I study deeper into the business model and fundamentals, I started realizing there's something interesting about this industry and multiple industries that revolves around it. Apple is a business model worth to analyze because very likely they are using the right approach and the business comes to a maturity. So let's dive in. So here's the disclaimer. You can pause the video and read it.
Analysis retrieved successfully. Onboarding Striker X now. 3, 2, 1, start sequence.
So now let's look at the macro view and the trends and some of the growth drivers revolving around this industry. So if we look at the number of smartphones, megatrend, they have enjoyed around 1,200% gains within 12 years. So it's this now it is undoubtedly maturing. So it seems that it has peaked in 2018. So now what will you do if you were Apple, right? So here we've after 2018, 2019, it was slowing down. It has about -1% year-on-year growth. Then 2020, when the pandemic hit, then it reduced by 12%. And now there's recovery, so there's another 6% growth, 6% growth in between the year 2020 and 2021. So indeed, it is slowing down a little bit. So I'm not going to average the CAGR, which is the compounded annual growth rate, because the cycle did actually slope quite sharply in the beginning and flatten on the later part, on right here, the characteristic of it. And now it is a bit uncertain, but of course that doesn't mean that doesn't mean people does not want to own a smartphone. Now smartphone has it's actually becoming more of an identity of any person, because most people would bring their iPhone out or smartphone out even more than their wallet. So identity cards. And nowadays we have Fintech, credit cards, and bank accounts stored inside the smartphone. So now let's look at the number of smartphone subscriptions worldwide between 2016 and 2027. So between 2016 and to 2021, so there was around 6 billion subscriptions, 6.2 billion subscriptions. But of course, you can see that the trend is actually slowing or actually maturing. We can say it's almost the same thing. Then the projected growth, the CAGR, it's actually also slowing down between 5 and 2% CAGR. So, well, it has enjoyed about 70% gains within 6 years, and projected forward is only about 17% gain within the next 6 years. So CAGR is about 2 to 5% for the next 6 years, right? So you can see it's slowing down. So if we look at the smartphone market shares, you can see that China has been actually coming out with manufacturing a few different brands: Oppo, Xiaomi, and Vivo. Of course, the biggest competitor for Apple is always Samsung when we talk about smartphone. And we can see that Apple is around 44%. And the rest, after Samsung is about 16%. The rest is fragmented. And this is seen in the year 2020. It has around 450 billion market shares just for smartphone alone. All right. So then if we look at what are the growth drivers right here, so it has actually formed a mega ecological architecture, keeping smartphone devices market growing. And of course, what are the industries that revolves around this? So there are other secular growth trends. That means trends that will stay for a decade or 2 decades or even more than that, growing concurrently since the advent of smartphones. So they are all linked to the smartphone. At the same time, they are all chain linked to one another. And of course, mobile game, it's always steadily increasing. Mobile e-commerce, or we may call it MCommerce, is also increasing. Sharp increases in fintech. And let's look at the CAGR as we were talking about these gains over the years. This is our projected CAGRs. And if we look at data analytics and artificial intelligence, is one of the highest CAGR projected forward, 38%. Cloud systems slowing down a little bit, and continuously upgrading communication infrastructures like 5G, from 4G to 5G, and people are even talking about 6G. CAGR is about 66% on the growth of the communication infrastructures. All right, so again, we would like to emphasize that this is a mega ecological architecture, and if we look at this in a broader picture, it is actually a web. It's like a network effect to one another, and which is keeping the smart devices market growing. And now, since all these are very connected to one another, the cyber hackers, they are actually increasing in numbers. Since 2018, it has been exponentially increasing. We'll look at that. So the cybersecurity is like a spider staying in the web, guarding all these industries from hackers. All right, so so it is very essential to have cybersecurity in the in the mega ecological architecture. So let's look at MCommerce. We may call it mobile e-commerce or MCommerce. And if we look at this MCommerce, like Amazon, Alibaba, and of course there are lots of other, other rising MCommerce or e-commerce platforms up in the coming years or for the past years. And of course, we have seen a clear growth trend about 270% within about 7 years for the past, and CAGR has been more than 2 digits all the time. It has reached up to even 30% and 27%. So projected from 2022 and 2025, it's about 10% average CAGR, so amounting up to 7.4 trillion up to 2025. Even last year, 2021, was around 5 trillion in revenues worldwide. So, and then if we look at the global mobile e-commerce, the mobile usage shares of e-commerce is actually growing. So in 2016, we can see there's only 52% users using mobile to actually purchase the items in mobile rather than computer online. And now within 5 years, there was an increase about 28%. So it's about 73% right now, the share mobile as share of total e-commerce, and it's steadily increasing. So it's poised for further growth. Right, 270% again within 6 years. Average CAGR for the past years are 30%. So, and fintech, this is quite interesting. Recently, I've done some deep research in fintech, and of course, I'll be able to tell the segments that is involved. I'll break them down to segments, but not in this video. So it is divided into digital payments. That's the first thing. And secondly is personal finance, loans, business finance, and business loans they were developing. And of course, digital payment is one of the most mature segment in fintech. And if we look at the global fintech right now, it has been growing about 340% for the past 6 years or 7 years. And it has grown from about 2 trillion. These are transaction values globally, 2 trillion transaction values to about 7 trillion. And digital payments being 68% of it. Personal finance 28%, and business finance about 4%. It's still growing up to today because business and finance involves more complicated processes like legal processes as well. So it's still small at the moment, but still it's going to grow at a bigger pace. And if we look at the projected trend on the transaction values of fintech, So it's between 2022 to 2026 projected about 270% growth within 5 years and 20% CAGR within the next 6 years. And this is coming from 5 different sources, but wouldn't go too detail on that. Be the collection, this can be made as a separate analysis indeed, as an industry analysis, right? As a separate one. So it can go up to even 18 trillion transactions. Right now we are at around 7 trillion. Alrighty, cloud computing is another secular growth. Stay for 2 more decades or even more. And if we can see 2013 billions, it's about 30 billion USD market, and up to 2021, it has grown about 360% within 9 years. It's about 140 billion market. But you can see that the growth trend is slowly maturing. So you can see the year-on-year growth is about projected to be about 5%, right? Compounded annual growth rate for the next 4 years. And ever since there are smartphones in the markets or smart devices and even computer, it has been actually growing quite well for the past 9 years. And of course, we know that since these smart devices are coming to maturity, this is the most parallel industry to the smartphone and smart devices. So it's coming to a mature. Right. So artificial intelligence and data analytics, they go hand in hand. And this is still projected to be a very high growth CAGR, about 38% for the next 4 years. And just look at the past few years. It's already about 245% growth within 4 years. And the next coming years, about 145 growth within 4 years. Okay, mobile gaming. This is interesting. Mobile gaming, if we look at mobile gaming, it's about 90% growth within the last 5 years and 40% growth within the next 5 years. So this is again a multi-billion dollars industry. Last year alone, it was about 110 billion US dollar. So projected growth will be around 175 billion by 2026. And there's a huge, I would say that the trend is still very intact. If you look at the companies like Tencent, Activision, they're mostly moving to mobile gaming. It's going to grow still. So this is growing by about 10% year on year. And we have a CAGR average about 10% for the next 5 years. Pretty steady, I would say. Then 5G communication infrastructures. Of course, if we look at this is still ongoing very aggressively, and you can see that this is the largest, highest growth industry, projected to be about 9,400 growth within 10 years. So, and not this alone, if you look at the average CAGR for the next 8 years would be about 66%. Definitely the highest one amongst all the rest of the industries. So just looking at North America alone, 5G infrastructure market, it's around 32.8% CAGR between 2022 and 2030, right? Pretty awesome growth. So, all right, so that's all on the macro view. Before we go into Apple fundamentals and some of the revenue characteristics. So let's say if we deep dive into that, then it will be even more interesting. So thank you for your time and happy trading and investing. Striker X here, signing out. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe and like button, and also notification button if you like to get more of these videos. And we also have a Facebook group where we're trading, and we will provide the link below in the description column.